Many dream of leaving a mark of greatness on the world, a mark that lasts longer than footprints in the sand. As long as we're still living, we have the ability to do good, make change, and to leave our mark. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing a phenomenal woman, a mother and wife, highly decorated attorney, and pension reform advocate, Sanya Goffe. This is Wealth Unlocked. Thank you so much for making the time, and I know you literally made the time given your schedule, but I appreciate it very much.
I'm happy to be here.
Great. So I don't think a lot of people know that you are a twin.
Yes.
And what I want to know is how has that shaped the Sanya that you are today? Because from as early as in the womb, you had to learn how to share, you had to learn how to compete, and then growing up, chart your own path, become your own, So tell me a little bit about that.
So there are four of us growing up. I have an older brother, Mark. He's 5 years older than me. And I have a twin sister, Leanne, and a little sister, my baby sister, Angeli, who hates being called a baby sister, but...
Because she's not a baby anymore.
Yeah, but she'll forever be my baby sister. So, but the thing, Tracy, is that my parents, and I'm so grateful for this, they never raised us as twins, the traditional way you'd raise twins. So we have two totally different names, Sanya and Leanne. My parents never dressed us alike. We went to the same prep school, but we were always in different classes. We went to two different high schools. Leanne went to St. Andrews, I went to Campion. Right after high school, Leanne went away to study. I stayed and went to Barbados for law. I don't feel like I had to follow, we needed to do the same thing or have the same friends.
Right.
I mean,
or dress the same way.
Exactly. So we had twice as many friends at the birthday parties. We were really encouraged to be our own persons. And my parents were very deliberate about encouraging our individuality.
I like that.
Yeah, and I really am so grateful. So I often forget I'm a twin, I must tell you. In fact, Leanne Moore, we're fraternal twins, so Leanne Moore resembles my little sister, funnily enough. And in fact,
your younger sister.
Yeah. And there are people who think they're the twins, actually. But truthfully, there was always a spirit of comparison. But my parents were very careful to not have that, really thrive in the home. But you did experience that at school, of course, who was smarter, who did better in the exam or whatever it may have been. And that was sometimes challenging. Mm-hmm. And some people, would make hurtful comments because they would compare you in front of, you're standing together and they would make a comment about who they thought was nicer or whatever.
But you definitely say, it helped who you are today because you had to be exposed to it from so early.
Yes, and also recognizing the dangers of it,
yeah.
Because it can really take you down a path of feeling inadequate and unsure of yourself. So being raised in an environment where my parents really celebrated who you were and your achievements and your ownness, your individuality, your uniqueness, that I think was always a good counterbalance for that exposure outside.
You mentioned going to Barbados to study law. Everybody knows Sanya the lawyer, but as your legal career has progressed over the years, what I want to know is why you chose the boardroom and not the courtroom.
Typically, when people think about lawyers, they think about the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
But I must say, Tracy, there's absolutely nothing about courtroom practice that excites me. It takes a special type of person to thrive in the courtroom. My husband Gavin is a litigator and he's excellent at it, but that's just definitely not where my skill set is. And I like my practice areas. I do corporate commercial law. I do a lot of work in pensions law, as you know, mm-hmm. and intellectual property. So that's a lot of in-office work. But seeing deals come together, structuring them, moving them.
That's what excites you.
Yeah, it really does. Right to completion. And we've worked on a couple of transactions together. So that's where I enjoy my practice. I mean, I never thought I would love the law as much as I do now. And then, of course, the directorships that I have also are a great complement to the corporate commercial practice that I undertake.
I'm happy that you mentioned that you didn't think that you'd have a passion for law, because I read one of your many interviews recently and you actually spoke about your current passion for pension. But if somebody asked you years ago if that's where you saw yourself,
right,
you would have said no. So tell us how you developed this passion for pension and your work in reforming the pension space in Jamaica.
At the time the Act came into force, so the Pensions Act, which came into force around 2004, I was working at Myers Fletcher and Gordon, and they decided to form a pension law practice group because before that time, the pension industry was really just governed by the Income Tax Act and just common law provisions, common law. And so this was the first time you had a regulatory framework, a statutory regulatory framework for private sector pensions. So it was a new area of practice, really. And one of the partners at the firm decided to form a pension law practice group. So an email went out indicating who the members of the practice group were going to be. And it was only partners. Now, I'm an associate at this time. And I realized no associates were on the list. So I went to the partner and I said, could I be allowed to? In
true Sanya style.
Yeah, could I be allowed to join this practice group? It seemed interesting. It was a new area. And I thought that it would be a good opportunity for me. And he said, sure. So that would have been about maybe 5 to 6 attorneys would have been a part of the practice group now. And I would have been the only associate. And Tracy, in probably the space of 2 to 3 years, so this would have been the infancy of the act, all of those partners would have either left the firm or retired from those practice groups. I mean, retired from the partnership.
So everything got left to you?
Yeah, it kind of got left to me and a partner. And so we carried the practice group for many years until I left Myers. And I just continued to, transition to HMF where I am now. And I love pension law. And in terms of the reform and pension advocacy, so that's a different side of it, because you do have attorneys who practice in the area, but they don't actually do any work in reform, right? That came about because Derek Jones, who was a partner at Myers, he formed the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica. Well, at the time, it was the Pension Funds Association of Jamaica. He recognized that there was going to be a need with this new act and this new regulatory regime for a lobby, association to advocate for change. And he invited me to join the association. And I started out initially just kind of like taking notes as assisting Derek. And then over time, I joined the board. And then about 4 years ago, I
became president.
Was elected as president.
What are some tips that you would give to persons that are looking to secure their financial future?
Well, firstly, I would say it's never too late to start saving for retirement. It's also never too early to start saving. A lot of people feel that it's, especially young people just coming out, starting to work, there are so many other things that seem to take priority, but finding space in your budget to save for retirement as early as possible is important. And thirdly, saving through a pension plan. And then that's really, really important. And let me just say, a lot of people feel that they are able to
do it on their own.
Do it on their own, exactly, Tracy. But the reality is that saving through a pension plan allows you to take advantage of the tax-free aspect, the tax-free element of the vehicle. So you're able to save before your income is taxed on your gross income, and all the returns on your savings are tax-free as well. And that invariably puts you in a better position than if you were to save after your income is taxed. I will say, though, that in the spirit of authenticity, I hate to save, I absolutely hate saving. In fact, my husband says that I behave like a budget is a bad word.
We like the honesty, Sanya. We like it.
And I'm a work in progress in that area. So I'm slowly practicing what I preach. It's no longer that my money needs to be spent on carnival and shoes. But I've always been disciplined about saving through a pension plan. From I've started to work.
So you do practice what you preach.
Right. On the third tip. But in terms of the kind of encouraging to save, I do struggle. I mean, I'm somebody who, I treat myself all the time. I treat myself if I'm in a good mood, a bad mood, if it's sunny, if it's rainy.
That's okay sometimes.
Yeah. But I have mellowed a little bit, and I'm becoming a little bit more fiscally responsible. But I definitely would want to encourage all persons who are working, self-employed, or if you're with your employer and the employer has a pension plan. If your employer doesn't have a pension plan, participate in any of the approved retirement schemes. I mean, I save with NCB Smart, but it's important to save as much as possible and take advantage of the tax benefits in a pension plan.
I'm happy that you mentioned being more fiscally responsible, because I know a big part of that too is your pride and joy, Julian. And so I want to know, how has your financial perspective shifted since Julian has come into your lives?
Yes, Julian is the love of my life. And I know you understand that, right? So one of the things that definitely has become kind of front and center for me is ensuring that as far as I can, I can give Julian as much as he needs, everything he needs, and as much as he wants.
Yeah.
You know, I have to be able to plan for any eventuality, you know, any circumstance, and be able to support him where that's concerned. And, you know, I've been the beneficiary of my parents making really sound fiscal decisions, financially prudent decisions, saving, and being able to support me as I have been, you know, growing up, starting to work, etc. And I want to be able to do that for him. And so, you know, with Gavin, we have these kind of, you know, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year plans.
Nice.
So that we can put in place a financially secure environment for him. But at the same time, it's not just to be able to support him financially, but to ensure that we are secure financially, that we don't have to rely on him to look after us. Because we do have this risk of a intergenerational dependence and intergenerational kind of pressure that sometimes takes place when you don't own your financial responsibility and you look to your children to look after you. And
which really shouldn't be the case.
Right. And whilst nothing is wrong with that, depending on circumstances, as far as you can, if you're able to be financially independent, it allows your child to have a better opportunity at financial independence in the future.
So you mentioned Gavin and Gavin's line of work. You're both very successful lawyers, which means long hours and a ton of work. Yeah. How do you make the time for each other, and how do you make the time for Julian?
That's a constant challenge. It is. We tend to manage the kind of parenting around Julian pretty well. And carving out time for each other, that's something we have to be very, very deliberate about. And sometimes we have to actually sit and okay, we have to make a plan. Like I make a plan to go out of town, make a plan to leave the island. You know, what are we doing this weekend? Gavin is very big on a weekend plan. He doesn't like the weekend to just kind of come and go. So he's very big on, we need a plan. But if you're not careful, you'll start, you know, passing each other like ships in the night, you know. And so it's important for both persons to be, you know, mindful about it. What I will say is that Gavin and I do a pretty good job of balancing our, you know, professional responsibilities and our parenting responsibilities with Julian. We have a really good rhythm. And we actually fostered a little baby before Julian came into our lives. So we have a bit of a rhythm from before, yes. Right? But when it comes to like the professional demands, there are times when, the work has to come first, and it's just the reality of the situation I'm dealing with. And, you know, similarly with Gavin, he may have a court case that's happening or some big trial, and he just has to focus on that. So I've really moved away from believing there's any such thing as a work-life balance. Because balance
never balanced.
Yeah, equality.
The scale never looks like this.
Exactly. But I had listened to a podcast some time ago, and it spoke about, you know,
work-life integration. I remember you speaking about that. Yes.
And it's almost like balancing different types of balls, but the balls are made of different material. Some are made of glass. You can never afford to drop. Some is sponge and it can drop and roll. Some is rubber, you know. And so sometimes a ball will drop and you're just going to have to figure it out and pick it back up. And so I've kind of changed my perspective on what that demand looks like, and feeling less guilty when I have to prioritize the work, but and setting more boundaries in terms of boundaries around you know, email responses and time on the weekend, etc. But it's a constant work in progress, and I would be lying if I say that it's not a challenge, you know. And as Julian grows, his needs change, you know, and as he gets into prep school and things like that, his need for me will change, and that will look different. And so I'm a little nervous, especially, you know, approaching the prep school time, but I really have a good partner in Gavin.
Good.
In terms of, the home support is great.
You're the chairperson for NCB's suite of alternative investment funds, Stratos. What made you decide to accept that chair position? Why alternative investments?
So I was actually almost like surprised when I was invited to chair, but it's been such a great journey. I mean, starting the fund from the very beginning and seeing how it's grown. We have an excellent board. We have a fantastic management team. And it's just been really good. It's a great space for NCB to really occupy in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. We need more of those alternative investment opportunities for businesses and for investors, of course. And so It's been a really good experience. At first, when I thought about accepting the chairmanship, and I spoke and discussed it with a few persons before I told Stephen yes, I was like, what's this going to look like? But it's been great, and I'm sure you share the same experience.
Of course.
It's been a fantastic journey for us.
So do you find that such directorships and your involvement in so many deals within the financial sector, do you find that that has helped you personally as it relates to wealth building and wealth creation?
Yeah, no.
Sanya.
No, I mean, it probably should, but it doesn't. Like, the truth is that it has helped me as a professional and a better understanding and awareness of the commercial considerations and how deals are made. So it's helped me to be a better corporate commercial attorney. But for me personally, no, that personal financial journey, as I said, is a constant work in progress. I give thanks for Gavin because honestly, if it wasn't for Gavin, I do want to be living hand to mouth. I mean, I love to spend money, Tracy. I mean, and like I said, Julian has tempered that a lot.
So thank goodness for Julian, thank goodness for Gavin, and also thank goodness for advisors. That's why we have investment advisors, right?
Exactly.
For persons like yourself.
And
so there is a solution.
Yeah, and the truth is that some people kind of feel like, so can I get some financial tips? I've had friends call me and I'm like, I am not the person. But no, so
I really appreciate the honesty.
No, so I too need the support, right? Because I'm a lawyer. Let's just get real.
Yeah.
I'm a lawyer, and when I sit on these boards, the value and what I bring to these boards, it's not my financial qualifications. I don't have those.
Right, it's your legal perspective, yeah.
And so,
so it highlights the importance of having an investment professional as a part of your journey.
Definitely. And it has helped me as a professional, but personally, I continue to work on that, And as I said, having clear goals now, though, 5-year, 10-year, 20-year goals, and wanting to have a dignified, independent life in retirement, I know what I need to do to get there. And so that has been a big part of what has informed a little bit more of my maturing in this area. But no, honey, I do like to spend my money. Yeah.
So you have many successes along your journey. Success as a mom, success as a lawyer, your success in philanthropy, which I'll get into, your success in pension reform advocacy. But none of those successes, I'm sure, have come without some form of a challenge or obstacle or even failure. How do you overcome obstacles in general?
I've definitely experienced challenges and obstacles, disappointments, failures. I have, sought opportunities that haven't, materialized. But what I've seen in my life, Tracy, is that honestly, when God opens doors, no man can close them.
So true.
So when I've been invited to sit on the boards and take up the presidency, and I've gotten the Eisenhower Fellowship and the opportunity to bring certain changes for pension reform to Jamaica, I mean, those are, you see the hand of the Lord working through those opportunities. I recall when I was at Miles Fletcher and Gordon, both Gavin and I were up for partnership, and we were married at the time. Their policy was that they wouldn't have husband and wife in a partnership, which at the time was disappointing, but honestly, in retrospect, I can completely understand why they would have that policy. That time in my life professionally, we were we were a young married couple. We didn't have the emotional tools to deal with that kind of situation. And I remember at the time when I was struggling and I was seeking guidance and advice. And one particular attorney said to me, when I asked her, an older female attorney, senior counsel to me, I asked her, what would you do if you're in my position? Because it was everything that, everybody was talking about it. What's going to happen? Who's going to stay? Who's going to go?
Imagine.
Exactly. And, who are they going to choose? It was just really a lot of pressure.
There you go, that spirit of
comparison. No, but Tracy, it's true. And it's, you really hit the nail on the head, because here you are, basically competing for position with your husband, who, by the way, as you know, Gavin and I were friends from we were 11.
High school, exactly.
Yeah, so we were friends, as in Gavin's my brethren. I married my brethren. And together this year, we're together 20 years this year, married 13 years. So Gavin has been in my life forever. And here you are in this situation where, you're essentially competing for a position. It's not healthy. It goes without saying. And I remember just speaking to a senior female attorney, senior counsel, asking her, what would you do? And she said, I would step back and let my husband get ahead.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, wow.
Especially coming from a female,
yeah,
right? You didn't expect that.
Yeah, I didn't expect that. But an opportunity presented itself for me to accept partnership at a smaller law firm in Jamaica. Gavin went on to become partner at Myers, which he still is. And then I transitioned to partnership at HMF, where I am now. And I love my firm. It's a great firm to work at. And when I look back at that time, though, at that time I thought this was it. I thought that, if I wasn't going to stay at Myers, I just didn't see myself professionally beyond working at Myers and Gordon.
And look at you now.
And the truth is, look at how God has just opened doors, presented opportunities, and sometimes you just have to trust in that process.
Yep.
So what seemed like a closed door, and as much as I took the offer from another firm, I did feel like I was walking away from something. But when I look back at that now, and I look at the doors that have opened and the opportunities that the Lord has presented,
God had different plans for you.
God had different plans, and that has taught me to trust the Lord and trust the process, to recognize that what may feel like a disappointment, what may even feel like a failure or a closed opportunity, it's just not for you, but something bigger and better is there. I mean, I'm so happy at the firm that I'm at now, and when I think about the opportunities that I've had, the directorships, the opportunities for pension reform, the advocacy positions that I've been in.
The very big deals that you are a part of.
Yes, the very big deals, the transactions that I've been a part of. I don't look back with regret, but that's not how I always felt. Early out, I wasn't sure, and it was such a pivotal time for me professionally, and I have seen the power of trusting God in this process. And trusting God with my professional development, because yes, I started law straight from high school. So I'm actually 19 years at the bar this year, believe it or not.
Congrats.
Oh, thank you. But there's a lot more to do, right? And there's a lot more to be a part of, and there's a lot more, change and improvement to champion for. And I'm just glad for that. And I'm glad that I've been able to see the Lord's hand through it all. So my advice in all of that would be to trust the process, to recognize that closed doors, unrealized opportunities it doesn't shape you. It doesn't mean that you're a failure. That God really does have bigger things in store for you.
Many years ago, you and Gavin started the Adult Learning Center. But even before that, you two were heavily involved in Jamal. As a matter of fact, Gavin brought me into Jamal.
Yes, I remember.
As a volunteer teacher, which I did for a few years. And when Jamal started to transition to the Jamaica Foundation for Lifelong Learning, you guys decided to branch out and start ALC. What drove that decision, and what makes you want to continue giving back to your community? And you can share with our viewers what the Adult Learning Center does.
Oh, fantastic. Love that question. So let me tell you how even starting with Jamal even came about. So Gavin's mom used to be a coordinator for Jamal. She was a member of I think she still is, a member of St. Margaret's Parish Church. And the church's outreach program was to host a Jamal Center. And Gavin used to help his mom. And I remember first year faculty, so we would have been in Jamaica. Gavin got up and went to the front of the class and asked if anybody wanted to volunteer to teach. And one of our colleagues, a student, said, "Do we get paid?" And Gavin said, "Richly." Yes, richly, dividends of the heart. And Tracy, I have never forgotten that response.
I like that.
He
didn't use that pitch with me, but I like it.
I was the only one who volunteered. And by of course, at this time, Gavin is not my husband, right? So it's just my brethren. But so we start teaching at Jamal and volunteering. It was great. I will tell you, there were times that I was moved to tears. You were talking about a 70-year-old woman who is just learning. You would have seen this.
Yep.
For the first time, she's deciding.
It was one of my most rewarding experiences, teaching.
To learn to read and write. She doesn't know how to, even write her name, much less read anything. And leaving the center, able to actually function. So Jamal transitioned to Jamaica Foundation for Lifelong Learning, as he said, and then when that happened, we decided to form our own charity, Adult Learning Centers of Jamaica, because we wanted a lot more flexibility with the curriculum. And really what ALC focuses on is adult learners becoming functionally literate and numerate. So it's not a program for CSEC or CAPE or to transition you to heart or anything like that. It's about allowing you to function in society. So you can go to the store and you know if you've gotten correct change. You're able to fill out your PATH application or Western Union application.
So when I was teaching with you guys, and you know, one of the first days where you asked them why do they want it, one lady said, I just want to help my son with his homework.
Yes.
You know, simple things like that we take for granted.
Yes. You know, it helps to bring perspective. You know, we think that there's so many things that we have that are challenges and so many things are wrong with our lives and we have so many problems and worries. And there's some people who just want to be able to function. They just want to be able to survive. And so that's what ALC is about, supporting, you know, adults learning to be functionally literate and numerate. We've been thriving now for over 20 years and we had to stop for 2 years because of COVID, just about 2 school years. So we're starting back in September. That's a hope. There are a lot of things that have to kind of fall into place. We need to have teachers who are vaccinated and willing to teach. And we would have a requirement that students are vaccinated, of course. But yes, it's a big part of my life. I am very happy about the program. I remember when you were teaching. And as you said, it's really one of the most fulfilling things that you can do, really give of your time and your talent. So I'm really proud of the ALC program that we have.
Wrapping up, no, I mean, it's been great. But if you were to sum up everything that we've spoken about, what are some key takeaways that you'd want, you know, if Julian was standing here right now, you know, your baby sister, you know, anybody out there listening, looking on, what are some key takeaways you'd want to leave with the audience?
Firstly, you don't have to have all the answers. You know, in my case, I continue to be a work in progress in the area of, you know, financial maturity and fiscal responsibility. And that's okay. And being okay with recognizing that it's okay to be a work in progress. Not just in my case, it's in financial responsibility, but, you know, it could be any area of your life, any area that requires discipline. So it's okay to be a work in progress. It's okay to not have all the answers. It's okay to look to persons who
have the answers.
Exactly, who actually are trained and skilled in the area, you know, investment advisors in my case. I'm a big advocate for retirement security. And as much as I am a work in progress in the area of saving more, I do ensure that that my savings are through a retirement vehicle. And I think that's something that I really want to impress upon all our listeners and viewers, that retirement savings, old age poverty is real. There are a lot of people, Tracy, who lived great, successful lives in their professional working time. And they just made bad decisions. They didn't put away for retirement. They didn't save for retirement. And they're destitute now. So old age poverty is real. It's not something that couldn't happen to you. And so putting in place the measures to save for retirement, take advantage of the retirement savings vehicles that we have in Jamaica, I think that's important. And I think as well, a major takeaway is that it's important to understand that a closed door, or what seems like a lost opportunity, could really be a greater opportunity for you in the future.
Trust the process.
Trust the process and see the Lord's hand as He opens doors for you.
Thank you so much, Sanya. This was great. I mean, we talk all the time. This was a little different, but I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope that, you know, I also introduced our viewers to a side of Sanya that they probably didn't already read about or watch. So I really loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I had a great time, Tracy.